From Pedro Pascal being unfairly put on a pedestal throughout the show, to Bella's salary being unbelievably lower than that of her co-stars. It seems that the team behind The Last of Us is pretty sexist, all thanks to their massively questionable salaries for the lead actors. Variety recently got to know about a significant difference between what Pascal and Ramsey are getting paid for their work, and you'd be mistaken if you imagined they'd be paid the same if they both have the lead in the show. According to rumors, the Game of Thrones actor receives $600,000 every episode, which appears to be a reasonable sum for someone as talented as him, but his younger co-star is only paid $70,000, which is literally ridiculous. Think about it. She's the star of the show, and everything would immediately stop without her. They both put in the same amount of hard work, yet the wage gap still exists, which fans have been raging about ever since they got to know of Variety's report. Trust me, everybody understands that the two actors are different and have their own place in the team. It's not a lie that Pedro Pascal drew most of the viewers to the show, all thanks to the reputation he had even before appearing in The Last of Us. Then there's Bella, who only got the spotlight thanks to the opportunity this show provided her with. And while that can be a pretty legitimate reason for her pay to be lesser than Pedro's, fans just felt like the amount wasn't even fair to her. The worst part of it all is the actor's hypocrisy and silence on the matter though. From the looks of it, Pedro Pascal seems to be a pretty progressive man. For starters, he constantly shares his support for the LGBTQ community. In fact, the Mandalorian actor is pretty self-aware, and he knows exactly how to get through living on Earth without being canceled or humiliated by social media, which is why this stuff is even more confusing. Why would he be okay with such a large salary disparity between himself and Bella Ramsey? Sure, there's a major difference in their acting experiences, since Pedro's been in the industry for over 20 years. And that's not all. He's appeared in some of the strongest franchises of all time, such as Narcos and The Mandalorian. So it pretty much stands to reason that his worth would be far beyond his younger co-stars. Well, a large number of fans believe that Pascal deserves to be paid higher than Ramsey, and it doesn't stem from any deep-seated misogynistic part of them. Most of them expected it because of the gap in their experience level, but the pay gap is a bit too large for the fans to ignore at this point. The Last of Us has received praise from all over the world, and the decisions the team makes aren't only based on personal experiences, so there's a lot more they have to consider, like how they've garnered accusations of a gender-based wage gap from the vast majority. If you ask me, they're not really in the wrong. These are two actors who are of different genders, but essentially do the same amount of work in the show, and the one who gets paid less is a female. Go figure. Conversations about creating equity in salaries, regardless of gender, have been going on for quite some time, but given that it is 2023, this lack of equality in this project doesn't really give them a good look. Not to mention, it's just super insulting to Ramsey's efforts. It also sheds light on the producers, among others, who agreed to such a large disparity in pay, knowing that both of them are adding equally to the show. Another angle of looking at it is how easily things probably come to Pedro, since he's been doing this stuff for ages. Meanwhile, Bella's only starting off, and getting things right may be a lot tougher for her. So, not only is she having to put in double amounts of effort, but she's also being paid 10 times less than her co-star. According to fans, this would establish her as someone inferior to the leading male character from the very start. And honestly, the reactions from most of the baffled fans are worth looking at. The figures alone were too unbelievable to be true. In response to the Variety report, one person stated that the decision was clearly motivated by misogyny, while another noted that, even though they acknowledge Pedro Pedro's success and experience, they can't ignore the fact that Bella's also been an active part of the industry. She was a prominent character on Game of Thrones and did an excellent job on the screen. But what truly emphasizes this point is that Bella's part is way more irreplaceable than Pedro's. If you've played the games, you'll know that Ellie is the absolute center of this story, which makes the entire pay gap problem look much worse than it is. While many comments still referred to Pedro as a professional actor with far more experience than Bella, most of them felt that for the same amount of work, she should be getting paid the same as well. Not to mention, both of them give back to the franchise equally. So it makes no sense for The Last of Us to profit off Bella's hard work at the expense of keeping Pedro satisfied. But then again, there are fans who believe that the pay gap is 100% justified for one main reason. According to them, people barely knew Bella before the show came out. Pascal was already getting paid well for playing Joel, and according to his fanboys, this was to be expected, given his position as a massively popular and in-demand star. After all, he's already led one of the greatest shows on the globe, The Mandalorian. In fact, the man had to be pried away from The Mandalorian's set quite a few times so that he could invest some time in this show. His demand is hard to fathom, but all you've got to do is look at the memes circulating the internet and you'd know. So, to many fans, the report about the wage gap didn't even seem like something people should worry over. Instead, they saw it as an open attempt to incite outrage over the pay disparity, which ultimately got mocked for being unreasonable. While the difference in pay is admittedly huge, some fans think it's important to recall that Ramsey was a relatively unproven youngster when The Last of Us began production, and her career is now likely to skyrocket, which wouldn't even have happened without the show. It's a lot like give and take, where the show launched her into success. But then again, Bella gave her best to make the show as successful as it is right now. But this entire point of view rests on one major assumption. Once Bella reaches the same level of demand, there are chances she'll be paid just as much. For a moment, the other side of the argument is ready to accept the simple possibility that Bella's lower wage has nothing to do with her gender. Instead, it was to do with her experience. In that case, Ramsey's undoubtedly due a significant pay rise when season 2 begins. And honestly, nobody's really denying that. Her career has gone from 10 to 100 thanks to her performance in the first season. And seeing how she'll become the absolute main protagonist in the second season, her pay's set to rise quite a significant amount. For now, it may be too soon to brand the entire franchise as toxic and sexist, because it seems that the producers might have had their reasons for the pay gap. In the second season, there are hopes that even if their salaries don't even out, the gap is at least fairly reduced. But as the chaos continues, there's nothing but silence from the team. It seems that the producers don't want to address this issue with the public yet. It's unclear whether they feel the pay gap is self-explanatory, or if they're just trying not to aggravate the fire even more than it already is. But neither the stars nor the producers have commented on the matter. So, while you sit and wait for the answers to finally arrive, this was everything you need to know about The Last of Us being sexist.